There, is that better? There, is that better? All right, sweet. So I can talk now. All right, so this is the first live stream that I've done on YouTube. This is the first one to the channel. I'm what I basically want to do is I just want to talk about some stuff that's going on right now with me. Talk about current events, that kind of thing. If anyone wants to stop by and talk, that'd be cool. And feel free to do so. I'm going to share the link on Twitter and Facebook. So we'll see if we get some people in here. Hopefully we do. That'd be really disappointing if I didn't get anybody. So I'm just gonna basically start, and if anyone jumps in, that's cool. But whoa, my mic's falling. All right. Okay. Just alrighty. So a lot of things been going on lately. So a couple things. Obviously, the Count Dankula situation is going on, and he has just been convicted. And I want to talk about that for a little bit. Something else I want to do is go into the Laura Ingraham, David Hogg situation, and also talk a little bit about Kyle Kashuv and what he's been doing as a response to this. And I think it's pretty interesting how all of it's played out so far. Someone that I've recently gotten into watching actually is Tommy Robinson, and not in the sense that like I watched all of his stuff and I agree with everything that he says, but I think it's interesting how he's been characterized by a lot of people, because I never watched him because I thought that he was this massive racist. And I watched his interview with Sargon, and I watched him on Dave Rubin, and it didn't come across to me like that. Maybe I'm wrong, and I don't have enough context on what exactly or who exactly he is, but that's just my opinion right now. Sorry, I'm getting a little sick. So, somebody else on live or anything? Because this is not as fun as I was hoping it would be. I was hoping someone would jump in. So what did I bring up? Oh, the Count Dankula situation was what I brought up first, isn't it? Oh, apparently Andy Worski's live right now. He has 3,600 people watching him. That's just depressing. 3,600 people watching him. So anyway, Count Dankula. So Count Dankula made this joke video about his dog. You know, a lot of people say it's in poor taste. In my opinion, it's relatively mild. He made a joke to make his girlfriend upset that basically he taught his dog how to raise his paw when he says Sieg Heil, so saluting Hitler and whatnot. And also he got his dog to get really excited when he said things like gas the Jews and things like that. So when he first posted this video online, he had like only a couple subscribers, only a few subscribers. It was just him and his friends really that paid attention to his page. And really it was just supposed to be a joke between him and his friends. And after making the video, he went to Iceland. And the reason he went to Iceland is that he had planned a trip months in advance to go to Iceland, and he just happened to make this video the week prior. So he goes to Iceland. He gets, according to him, the night it goes viral, he got really drunk, and then he got back to his hotel, and his girlfriend called him and said that this video is going viral, and like there's reporters at the door, and things are getting really crazy over here, and he's really drunk, so he goes to sleep, and he's really hungover the next morning. And then when he goes home, there's this big fuss about this video that was only intended to be a joke for him and his friends to see. And he was arrested under hate crime legislation in the UK. And after a 2-year-long trial, he has been convicted of being grossly offensive by the United Kingdom government and the government of Scotland. There's a lot of reasons why that's pretty amazing. I mean, to think that someone could get arrested for telling a joke is incredible to me, especially as someone who lives in the United States and as someone who has had constantly this reaffirmation of there's coffee right here. I'm just gonna put this away. I just realized I have this stuff behind me. All right, so to constantly have this reaffirmation that freedom of speech is something that we hold paramount in this country, and to see it play over so differently in a country like the UK, where they've had problems recently with Lauren Southern getting stopped at the border, 2 other journalists getting stopped at the border. The reason Lauren Southern was actually stopped from the border is because she was going to interview Tommy Robinson, and as I talked about before, he's been kind of branded as a anti-Islamic hate. I would say hate preacher, but he's not overtly religious, I guess. But yeah. So again, the UK. I understand that they don't have a written constitution, and therefore it gives government a little more credence to do as they please, and it allows them to change more frequently and more rapidly than the United States or other countries with a written constitution. However, I find it really troubling that in a country as westernized as the UK, that someone can get convicted of being grossly offensive for telling a joke that was only intended to be heard by his friends, even if you find the joke distasteful, which you could. I mean, it's relatively based on shock humor. So, but even then, I mean, the joke is that the pug is cute and he wants to make his girlfriend mad by turning the dog into something that is not cute. And the least cute thing he could think of was a Nazi. So I don't know how that's endorsing of anti-Semitic hate. But apparently that's the call that the British government and the government of Scotland have made when sentencing Count Dankula, or his real name's Mark Meacham, or Meekum. I don't know how you pronounce it over there. I know the pronunciation's a little different, but I find that fascinating that that's something that's going on. I've wanted to make a video for a while on the whole gun debate going on across the country, but especially in Florida, with a lot of young students, a lot of students that go to my college at Florida Gulf Coast University, because a lot of the students that go to Florida Gulf Coast University came from Broward County and the Parkland area. Some even attending Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School. I had several friends go to the March for Our Lives in D.C. and protest against protest for gun legislation, and there's a lot of things I find troubling with this. First off, it's the people that they've chosen, these young kids that they've chosen to decide to lead this movement. So first, I'm going to end with David Hogg. I'm going to start with Emma Gonzalez, who I think is the smartest of the three, and in my opinion, the most dangerous of the three when it comes to protecting, because I'm a Second Amendment advocate, I guess. Not in the sense that, like, I think that everyone should have the right to own a tank, although I go back and forth on that a lot. I think it's a gray area, in my opinion. But she's the smartest one politically. She knows how to use phrases, use silence. She's very, very competent in the way she uses her language in order to promote her messaging, and that's why I think she's the most effective of the three. And the three I'm going to reference here are Cameron Kasky, David Hogg, and Emma Gonzalez. So the second one I'm going to go to is Cameron Kasky, and Cameron Kasky and David Hogg are practically the same person in my mind. They don't have any opinions that differ. They use the same language. They use the same go-to phrases. And these are along the lines of, if you disagree with me, then you're an advocate of child murder. And I find the fact that they have been unquestioned, unchallenged on these opinions and in these beliefs a little bit troubling, because as someone who wants to minor in journalism, coming out of college, I'm in a major in communication, minor in journalism. I might go into the journalism field, or I might go into public relations. I'm not sure yet. But as someone who is pretty big on journalistic integrity and being objective and presenting both sides of an argument before you're going to state your opinion, when David Hogg and Cameron Kasky attack someone like Marco Rubio or Dana Lash because they're Second Amendment advocates, they're saying that Marco Rubio is bought by the NRA and blah, 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 blah. And I even had some friends that went to the March for Our Lives that said the only thing cheaper than buying a gun is buying a Republican. I think you have to be politically illiterate to think that these things are the case. And the reason I say that is you have to understand the amount of money that Marco Rubio took from the NRA in his last campaign was $10,000. Now, that sum of money in a $3 million campaign, he didn't need that money. He didn't. The fact is, he didn't need that money. But, and I say, the NRA gives money to Marco Rubio because he believes in the Second Amendment and because he advocates for causes that they like. So they're going to give him money. It's the same reason that a Democrat would give money to a candidate, because they support that candidate's mission. Same reason that Planned Parenthood and these unions often give money to Democrats, because they feel like they represent the interests of the people, or other people. They feel like they represent the interests of their organizations. So the NRA gives money to Republicans, and because most Republicans are pro-Second Amendment. This is common knowledge if you know anything about politics. It's not like the NRA has a lot of hands in the political game. I mean, the gun lobby is not a very big lobby in Washington. So I'm astounded that anyone would say that, and because when you compare it to all the other ways of funding, you look at the amount that unions spend on funding Democrat candidates, and you look at teachers unions and workers unions and all these other things, Fight for 15, all these organizations spend a lot more money than the NRA when you want to talk about funding. But it's not because it's not the money that these kids really care about. It's who it's going to. It's the cause itself. So because these kids aren't Second Amendment advocates, they believe, well, clearly these people are bought. These people are bought because the NRA is giving them money. I mean, no one would advocate for this if they weren't being paid. But our people are noble. They only take money from people because they know that these people are good. They're good, wholesome people. And that is what makes me upset. And to go and to transition from this to the Laura Ingraham thing. Now, what did Laura Ingraham actually say? I'm going to pull up the tweet real quick because she's losing a lot of advertisers over this tweet. And I found it actually pretty innocuous. I think this is one of the lightest things anyone has ever said in the field of politics. When you look at, especially what was said in the 2016 election, and what David Hogg and Cameron Kasky has been saying about their opposition, this is so mild. It shouldn't even be news. So Laura Ingraham is responding to a TMZ. Laura Ingraham is responding to a Daily Wire article about a TMZ interview with David Hogg, where David Hogg may have implied that colleges were rejecting him because of his positions on gun control, which is dumb because most colleges are heavily left-leaning. Specifically, one reference was UCLA. UCLA is not accepting him because the acceptance rates at UCLA for David Hogg's GPA and SAT scores, he wouldn't get in. He wouldn't. The average SAT score that David Hogg that UCLA is accepting is 1370. David Hogg scored a 1270, so it's 100 points higher than what David Hogg scored in his SAT. I believe the GPA is even higher. So purely on a fact-based standpoint, an innocuous standpoint, David Hogg didn't get accepted because his scores weren't good enough. Now, they are terrible scores. He's going to go to college somewhere, but UCLA obviously didn't accept him because there are certain requirements to get into very, very selective universities like UCLA. So the tweet reads, quote, David Hogg rejected by 4 colleges to which he applied and whines about it. Dinged by UCLA with a 4.1 GPA, totally predictable given acceptance rates. So Hogg said in the interview, I don't know the exact quote. My best approximation of the quote was that he said he hasn't gotten into some colleges, and it doesn't matter if these colleges accept us or not because we're changing the world with or without them. The implication being, if they don't want to help us in our mission, then they don't have to. We're going to do what we want to do anyway. And that insinuates that the colleges rejected him because of his political stance, which UCLA is a heavy left-leaning university. And if they were looking at these applications 4 months ago, before the Parkland shooting happened, before David Hogg was famous, and if they were looking at his application today, I find it hard to believe that they wouldn't accept him. I find it hard to believe. That's just my personal opinion. I know that the university that I go to, he would get in because my scores were actually relatively similar to David Hogg. My GPA was almost identical. I think it was a little bit higher, but my SAT score is almost the same. So I don't know why he would find it so shocking that he wouldn't get accepted to UCLA, given the fact that it's a very selective university. That's like me whining about not getting into Harvard. My numbers weren't good enough to get into Harvard. I didn't even apply. It wasn't worth the money to apply, in my opinion. I knew I wasn't going to get in. I knew I wanted to go to Florida Gulf Coast University since my junior year in high school. So I applied to Florida Gulf Coast University and one other university. I got into both, and I chose Florida Gulf Coast. So I don't know. I just find it frustrating when people make a big deal. So then, after the tweet by Laura Ingraham, David Hogg goes, "Hey Laura, what are your advertisers asking for a friend?" And then Media Matters and David Hogg started going after Laura Ingraham's advertising because they claimed that she was abusing a teenager, a child, an underage individual. And these advertisers went for it. Laura Ingraham's lost a lot of advertising. Now, I'm not a big fan of Laura Ingraham. I disagree a lot with what Laura Ingraham says because I think that she's misguided in some of her beliefs. And for instance, she was a big Trump supporter in the primary and throughout the general, and I was not. I was very conflicted about voting Trump in the general. I didn't want him to win the primary. In fact, I voted against it. I actually wanted to vote for in my own state because I knew that my candidate that I wanted to vote for had no chance of winning my state. I was hoping that we could the Republican Party could keep Trump under the required number of votes to win the Republican nomination, and that we could they could do a vote that way, and that we could keep Trump out of the Republican nomination. That was my hope. I voted Marco Rubio instead of voting Ted Cruz or Ben Carson in Florida. So it was against who I wanted to vote for, but it was for my own interest, because my interest was not letting Trump become the Republican candidate. I really didn't want that to happen because I thought Hillary would wipe the floor with him. Fortunately, Hillary is robotic. She has no personality. She toes the line on every single issue, and she can't expound on these. And that is why she lost the election. But Laura Ingraham, big supporter of Trump throughout the primary, big supporter throughout the general. I disagree with a lot of what she says. A lot of her policies, she's very about this America First kind of politics, which is, I think, economically illiterate. Economically illiterate, and I find that to be an issue worth exploring. What was I saying? I completely forgot. Economically illiterate, and I think that if she were to take any time and examine that issue, that she would find she was wrong, even though she's a very, very opinionated person, and it's really hard to get someone like that out of their hardcore zoning. But so she's lost a lot of advertising, which is pretty amazing. I can't believe it, just because things that David Hogg has said about Republicans and about the people that are in the NRA and Dana Lash, and things that Cameron Kasky has said about Dana Lash and Republicans, and even Emma Gonzalez, who's relatively smart when it comes to politics. She doesn't really get down in the mud. She's very, very precise about the language that she uses. Even things she said is way more aggressive, way more dirty, way more vitriolic than the things that Laura Ingraham said about David Hogg in this tweet, which she is now losing a lot of money over. And it confuses me. It confuses me how people play these partisan games about when it's acceptable to do things and when it's not acceptable to do things. So it's acceptable to be completely vitriolic and hate and full of hatred toward the other side of an issue when it's your opponent. But when it's someone attacking you and they're being vitriolic and they're being filled with hatred and this rage and this just pure, unadulterated, vicious criticism, it's not okay. Now it's harassment. Now it's targeted harassment at an individual, and that makes me upset. It really does. So we're nearing like 27 minutes on the stream. I feel like I've been talking forever. Normally, when I do a video, I do about 27 minutes of recording, and then I edit it down to like 15, maybe less. But the first minute and a half of this was me checking, make sure my mic works. So apparently no one has decided that I'll just make this a video and post on the channel about my rambling. So I guess I'm going to do that. What else is there to talk about? So I got my room a little more cleaned. I got this little area that I'm in right now to do these streams in that I'm probably going to do here. I'm going to make my videos over there at my desk. Right now I'm sitting on the floor in a beanbag chair with this microphone. My videos are made over there with my other microphone, with my desktop, my printer, everything over there. And that's going to be the video station. This is going to be live stream station. I want to talk to you about the book I'm reading right now, which is pretty tough to get through given the things that I'm doing in school. But right now I'm reading Fyodor Dostoevsky's Crime and Punishment. And it's pretty good so far. It's really interesting because a lot of it is one of the toughest things I find about it and relating to it, and I know this is something really small, but the names in the book are Russian, which is not surprising because he's a Russian author. But the names of the people in the book are Russian, and I get caught up with trying to learn how to pronounce the names correctly rather than reading what these people are actually doing. But that's the book I'm reading right now. Another book I'm reading is How the Irish Saved Civilization. It's about the fall of Rome and how the Irish contributed to saving that kind of Western idea of democracy and religion throughout the Dark Ages, which is it's a pretty interesting read so far. I have about, I don't even know how many other books I have to read on my list. Let me just go through some of the books I have still to read on my list. So I have Plato's Republic. My microphone's about to fall again. Let me see if I can fix this before this falls off. Okay, so I have Plato's Republic. I have the early Socratic dialogues, which I've made it through about chapter 2. I've started reading that. These are books that I'm really happy I have. So the first one is Four Great Tragedies of Shakespeare. I don't know if you can see that because there you go. This one is Tale of Two Cities by Charles Dickens. This one is Four Great Comedies of Shakespeare. And this one is The Four Great Historical Plays of Shakespeare. So I'm really excited to get through those. I'm expecting to get through those over the summer. Last summer I did read I did read Julius Caesar for the first time, and that was a really, really good read. I reread through Romeo and Juliet because I really think that play is quite profound, and the way it views kind of I guess prejudice and hatred in the way that it only ends up hurting both sides. If two types of people hate each other, whew, bless me. Anyway, if two types of people end up hating each other, it ends up just affecting both of them negatively. Obviously, the um, Capulets and the Montagues, both who lose their pride and joys in Romeo and Juliet. Um, I do have one book that my dad laughed when I bought it. Um, um, A People's History of the United States by Howard Zinn. Um, I actually do want to read through this, and I want to read through it like effectively. I want to get a really good understanding about what what uh what it actually says in there, because you always hear people bring it up as this paragon of history, like textbook wise, and I think that's interesting. So I want to get a better understanding what that's all about. Um, what are the books that I have here that I want to share? I have textbooks. uh, so I have two kind of biographies, I guess. So I have Marco Rubio's American Dreams, the man himself right there, and then I also have the Clarence Thomas's memoir, My Grandfather's Son. I'm hoping I can get through those before next fall. It's gonna be a struggle, but maybe I'll be able to do it. I'm gonna have a lot of time in late summer to do stuff. I'm taking classes over the summer, so should be exciting. Zane graduates this summer, so give it up for Zane. He also just turned 23, I believe. So that's exciting. Let's see what we got here. Is that it? That can't be it. It might be it. I did buy this book. This book is by. I haven't done any research on this author. I saw the book, and because I'm I'm a enjoyer, I suppose, of people like Sargon of Akkad and Stefan Molyneux. Less Stefan Molyneux than Sargon of Akkad, but I'm just naming names. Tommy Robinson makes some interesting points. Not saying that he's right about everything or wrong about everything, but that's neither here nor there. Anyway, because I'm an enjoyer of these people, this book interests me. The War for Muslim Lines by Giles Keppel. Now, I'd have to do more research on Giles Keppel to make sure he's not a foaming racist, but it's an interesting concept because people like Majid Nawaz, who are advocating for a reformation within Islam, and the Imam of Peace on Twitter, I can't remember his name, but people like him advocating for change in the way that Islam is practiced and done in the world, and I think that's interesting. Another book I bought this weekend was actually by a man I actually got the chance to interview, Paul Ingrassia. It's called Comeback: The Fall and Rise of the American Automobile Industry. Paul Ingrassia is actually one of the former managing editors of Reuters. I did get the chance to interview him. He's a pretty interesting character. I think that he's pretty humble, in my opinion. I think that he was managing editor of Reuters, and he's also a Pulitzer Prize winner. And he kind of didn't let that get to his head. I think I could be wrong. I have only had the chance to meet him once, so but that was my impression of him when I got the chance to interview him. And he liked to talk about cars. He's very fond of the fact that he got the chance to interview Vladimir Putin twice, I believe in 2014 and 2015. And pretty good. It was pretty good, pretty informative interview. What else do I got here? I think that's it. Oh no, I got one more. by Stephen Mitchell. So it's called The Gospel According to Jesus, a new translation and guide to essential teachings for believers and unbelievers. So I have no idea what this book is about, but it sounded good. As some of you may know, that ended up seeing this video afterward because no one watches my streams. This is actually this is a book about Christianity. And I'm a Christian, so that obviously interests me, and I like learning a little bit about Christian literature and things of that nature. I think that's all the books I have. Let me just show you what I got in my little corner, though. So I'm a big fan of Thomas Jefferson, and over the summer I got the chance to visit DC for the first time. So I got knickknacks. So this is a tiny bust of Thomas Jefferson, and this is a tiny bust of the Jefferson Memorial, which is really cool. If anyone ever gets the chance to visit it, they should. In my opinion, Thomas Jefferson is one of the greatest founding fathers that we have, if not the greatest. He wrote the Declaration of Independence, which is one of the most beautiful documents ever written in terms of the prose and the way he wrote it. The opening lines of the Declaration of Independence almost bring me to tears when I read them. It's especially when you think about like the time that it was written in and everything that was going on then. It's a really powerful document in my opinion. Another thing I have over here. Oh, it's a bust of Aristotle. I actually really like this. A lot of people told me I was an idiot when I bought it, but I was like, nah, this is pretty lit. This is lit, fam. There's Aristotle right there. Look at that beard. I hope I can grow a beard like that one day. That'd be pretty cool. What else is over here? So I have my new camera over here, but unfortunately I couldn't hook it up to my computer before I did the stream, which is nearing 40 minutes, by the way. Or I guess it's gonna be a video. But my new camera, it's a Vivitar action camera. Shoots in 1080p, which is pretty cool. And we're gonna start doing more videos, by the way. Just as a heads up, more videos are gonna come. And that's really all it's in my little special area. I have a phone charger over here so I can charge my phone and whatnot, which is useful. But is there anything else I wanted to talk about? I don't think so. I mean, I could talk about like how disappointed I am at the new tax bill, or not the tax bill, spending bill. Pretty disappointed about that, but anyone has already heard about that. And if you haven't, basically, following the big tax cuts we just did, we also just added a lot of spending in an omnibus package, which includes a lot of stuff that's really frivolous in my opinion. But I'm someone who wants to radically decrease the spending in government, and I realize that puts me in the minority, so I'm not going to talk about it. What else has happened? I talked a little bit about the gun thing, but and I don't really feel like I have to expound more on it. We have articles on our website about that. Oh, congratulations to Notre Dame. Just won the women's NCAA title for basketball. Congratulations to them. They beat UConn, so they deserve it. They ended up beating UConn in overtime. That was pretty crazy. I couldn't believe it, actually. But I think that's all I'm going to talk about today, because we're about 42 minutes in, and that's a pretty long time. So I'm gonna go ahead and sign off. It's dark outside now. So I will catch you guys in the next stream or video or article. I'm not sure which is gonna go next. I might do streams while I do homework, but I don't know how fun that would be. Doesn't sound like very much fun, but anyway, I will see you guys later. Bye-bye.